Looks like we're ready to go, are we? All right. Very good. Don, how are you? I'm going to ask you to come up and join me after I'm done making some formal remarks. Don Hers is here today, who's our interim finance director, our director from some time ago. And we're glad to have him aboard and taking care of us in the interim before we get a new finance director. But the subject matter today is the area of finance. It's the area of taxation. We want to chat a little bit about one of the two city council proposals dealing with proposed charter changes. And the one we want to talk about today is the one relating to taxation that was introduced by Councilman Christensen. We will be talking about that not just today, but it will be an ongoing conversation with the community in the upcoming weeks, as will the second proposed charter proposal that was introduced before the council on Monday. So with that, let me back up a little bit and preface the meat of the remarks with some background information. I would suggest, and I think everybody would agree, that there has never been a better time to live, to work, to go to school, to raise a family in Lincoln, Nebraska. And the word is getting out. A simple internet search demonstrates that Lincoln is well respected nationally, both for our economy and standard of living. Over the last 2 years, stories on our great business climate and outstanding quality of life have appeared in some of the nation's most respected news sources: National Public Radio, Bloomberg, The Wall Street Journal, and CBS. This national attention is a result of all segments of our community coming together as partners to move our city forward in small ways and in big ways, like Pinnacle Bank Arena and the West Haymarket. And now is not the time to derail that momentum. Unfortunately, that is exactly what would happen under a charter amendment introduced by Councilman Roy Christensen at the request of a special interest group. The amendment would require voter approval of any tax increase. This radical proposal is reckless, irresponsible, and a threat to all we have accomplished and to all we can accomplish in the future. There are several troubling aspects related to the introduction of this measure. First and foremost, the special interest leaders, Perry Persh of Citizens for a Better Lincoln and Kobe Mack of the Lincoln Independent Business Association, have not done their homework. They apparently did not talk to bond experts and attorneys to determine what impact their proposal would have on Lincoln's bond ratings. That simple bit of homework would have revealed how their scheme is seriously threatening to Lincoln's AAA bond rating. That bond rating, by the way, the very highest credit rating that a municipality can receive. This designation in and of itself results in enormous benefits to our taxpayers, saving millions on interest costs. Had Mack or Persh bothered to ask any questions of the financial experts or of staff, they would have discovered how their scheme could cause lenders to declare that Lincoln cannot meet its existing contractual obligations. The consequences for Lincoln residents would be severe and immediate in that case. Any money these special interest groups thought they could save by requiring a public vote on all tax increases would be wiped out by the millions of dollars of added interest payments. Further, without the ability to guarantee revenues to keep up with a growing city, and we do have a growing city now, the radical scheme would ensure deep cuts in aging, parks, libraries, and other quality of life services to make up for the increased interest payments that will follow a downgrade in the city's credit ratings. Even fundamental city responsibilities like public and safety and roads would be threatened. If Pershing Mac were in school, they would be getting an F for this ill-conceived, reckless effort. They owe it to the community to do their homework. Second, there is a complete lack of transparency regarding the charter amendment. There were no discussions with public officials or bond experts and no public meetings to discuss how the proposal would work. It was drafted behind closed doors by a special interest group and with no input from elected officials or the public. The city's charter revision committee was intentionally bypassed, apparently to avoid any scrutiny of the proposal before it was introduced. Perhaps this isn't surprising, considering Citizens for a Better Lincoln is a political action committee with a history of launching negative attack ads. And the LIBA Political Action Committee has donated money to this group to help it further its agenda. However, introducing a fatally flawed and radical change to the charter simply to further a special interest agenda is the very definition of reckless and irresponsible. We cannot cede our responsibilities as elected officials to special interest groups. Our job is not to blindly put forward a proposal that jeopardizes the city's bond rating on the word of a Persh or a Mac. We have an obligation to examine the issue, take a stand, and be straightforward with Lincoln residents on what is lost if this charter amendment passes. The public needs to know about the proposal's effect on our bond ratings. They need to understand the charter's amendment's impact on roads and public safety and other services. If council wants to send this charter amendment to the voters, each member needs to tell the public his or her position on the issue and how they intend to deal with the inevitable fallout. It is a dereliction of duty for council to throw up its hands and say it's up to the voters without taking responsibility for the potential problems that will surely arise. Lincoln is a highly successful community that deserves the national accolades that we have been given, that we have earned. We are driving an unprecedented level of private investment and growth while maintaining a quality of life that is the envy of cities across the nation. Why, in those circumstances, would you jeopardize our historic level of success by implementing a reckless, irresponsible, and unproven scheme? Why would we allow a plan crafted by special interests behind closed doors to undermine all we have achieved? We cannot allow a small number of people associated with an interest group to determine the future of over 260 Lincoln residents, 260,000 Lincoln residents. That's not how we do things in Lincoln, and I urge the City Council to do the right thing and to defeat this proposal. With that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Don, why don't you come forward? And you may want to make a comment or two before we open it up for questions, if you like.
again, Don Hers, interim finance director, and with that term interim finance director, I guess maybe I can be a little less reserved in my comments since I'll be retiring again in a couple of months. But I would echo what the mayor said. I think this is an extremely reckless approach to the financial management of our city. And I think my predecessors, all of the predecessors that I can think of would echo my comments, that have worked hard to position the city's finances where there are. I agree. I think this would almost certainly result in a loss of our AAA bond rating, but probably more devastating because our general A bond rating for our GO bonds amounts to a small fraction of our debt, but I think it has a significant ripple effect on our other credits. And that could include, because our AAA bond rating is the anchor for some of these other entities, such as the Public Building Commission, the District Energy Corp., the West Haymarket JPA, which has $300 million plus of debt outstanding. I think it could ripple down to our water, wastewater, parking revenue bonds. Most of our revenue bonds could be impacted by this. So I'm just really concerned about this proposed change.
Okay, questions?
So, Mayor, why do you think it was proposed? Why do you think that they put this forward?
I don't know. I think there's a certain element of the public out there that's not balanced in its thinking with regard to revenue inputs and expenditures. You can't have it all. You know, you have to find a balance that works well. And what is there to argue about here in Lincoln? Have we not found that balance? Isn't the city zooming forward? And we've done that with no large tax increases. But there are always some folks who only see one side of the equation.
This wouldn't affect current bonds that are already been sold, right? It would affect future bond opportunities.
Well, no, it would affect the ratings of all existing bonds and potential and any new bonds. So if I were a credit holder, I would be quite unhappy if my AAA bonds now become something less than that. So it's not just new bonds. It impacts any bonds that are outstanding.
But we already have the money for the new bonds, I mean, for the existing bonds. So it wouldn't affect.
It wouldn't affect what we're paying, but our creditors are not going to be happy when we go and try and sell bonds in the future. Those people who buy our bonds that have seen the credit reduced are going to be skeptical.
And there's a group of people who think that their debt is bad, so perhaps you could explain what some future bonds might be for.
Well, generally, you issue debt for capital improvements, and it's one of the most fundamental financial practices that you match the benefit of an asset, whatever that asset may be, with the debt service. So the taxpayer who is paying that debt service is getting the benefit of that particular asset as opposed to accumulating cash. So, you know, I would be unhappy if I had to pay taxes to accumulate cash to buy an asset, whether that's whatever that may be, only to benefit a future taxpayer, especially if I were to move out of town. I've paid all of this money in and I'm not getting a benefit for it. Does that help answer?
Well, I wanted something more specific. Maybe the mayor could talk about what we might be issuing debt for.
Well, let me just, I mean, we have some water revenue bonds that are going to be issued this spring. I know there are some GO bonds contemplated in the capital improvement project. I don't know if that's this year or the next couple of years, but there's a list of improvements listed in the CIP that are targeted to be paid for with bonds.
It's parking lot. It's parking lot.
Yeah, there's a parking bond that's anticipated. And as I said, I think this will have a ripple effect, not only with our GO bonds, but our revenue bonds, which include parking revenue bonds.
Can you explain this a little bit more for those people something like this threatens the bond rating?
I would say the most fundamental thing that I see when I read the credit rating agencies, they say we have a 50-cent levy limit, and we're only using 33 cents of it. So they have some comfort if something catastrophic happens, that we have the wherewithal to potentially and pay our creditors. This proposal, almost in effect, sets the levy at 31 cents. Suddenly you don't have any cushion at all, and I think that would be probably the most significant impact with respect to the ratings.
Bondholders are like any other business people, they look for certainty. When there's not certainty and there's not certainty in this kind of instance, it changes the atmosphere and the conditions of approval.
So I assume this means you'd veto it if it came to your desk?
Well, there's a long ways to go in this process, and it's not clear to me what all we need to change in the proposal at this particular point in time. We're just beginning our examination of this, and there are several other parts to this that I find problematic personally from my own legal background, and we'll just have to see what those things look like after we've had a chance to discuss them with people who know more about different subject matter area. And we need to talk to the council and see what they're willing to change, what they may or may not be interested in compromising
Are you
on.
talking about
So,
the Cindy's amendment, or are you talking about Citizens for a Better Lincoln amendment?
I'm talking about the taxation amendment.
Okay, there's things in it?
Pardon
So
me?
So you're saying that you wouldn't necessarily veto it if it came?
Well, everything can be changed to be made right. But it'll be hard, it would be hard in this case, but it's possible. So I don't want to say at this point in time where we will ultimately come down, but certainly if it can't be changed to fix the problem, the main problem that we discussed today, it's not going to be something that can be approved.
Did you talk to Perry Kirsch or Cody Mack before this? Since you said that they didn't consult bond experts, is that more of a speculation, or have you actually spoken with them about whether they have consulted bond experts on this?
We have not, I have not personally talked to them and asked them if they consulted a bond expert. But they would not, I can tell you from my legal background, they would not have put that in the manner that they did if they had. It's inconceivable to me. Okay, you good to go? Thank you for showing up. Some of you, I think, on fairly short notice, so I
I
appreciate it.
admitted what I did.
Okay.
I've